everyone, this is Tom from Dirk Witte Music Store in Utrecht, the Netherlands. Today we are taking a look at the king of the flat tops by, not by Gibson, but by Epiphone. This is one of the inspired by Gibson custom shop acoustic guitars, which we've actually taken a look at previously, like 2 years prior, but this one has been changed just enough for me to go like, yeah man, just going to do a new demo for this. Epiphone inspired by Gibson custom 1957 SJ-200 reissue in a stunning antique natural finish. So like I said, I've made a demo of this guitar like at this time, like 2 years ago, but back then they had a different fingerboard. The finish was also slightly different, and I just feel like that it's just more refined. So yeah, therefore I'm going to do a new one for this very cool J200. So from the Gibson, from the Epiphone inspired by Gibson custom line, Epiphone has been making that or has a line like that has had that for, I want to say like 3 years maybe at this time. Various electric models, various acoustic models. Kind of like to give you the, dare I say, like Gibson custom shop experience at like an Epiphone price point. So these are really like the most expensive Epiphone models that they offer, but they also come with the most impressive specs. And like I said, for this model, the J200, it has been improved since my previous demo. So and the same goes for like different models. They really get all of the stuff that you could possibly ask for, almost, if you will, but then at a very reasonable price point compared to Gibson custom shop models that are obviously very, very expensive. And again, these are also not cheap by any means, don't get me wrong, but they are not as crazy as the Gibson custom shop models, or even as Gibsons. So very fine guitars, and this one is no exception. So 57 SJ-200 antique natural finish, based on the arguably the most legendary iteration of the SJ-200 or J200, whatever you want to call it. That model was first introduced in 1937, I believe. The Southern Jumbo, that is what SJ stands for. It was called the SJ-200 because at that time it was, I believe, $200, which obviously adjusted to inflation is not $200 in today's money. But then in the late 1940s, it changed quite a bit because the first iteration of the SJ-200 featured rosewood back and sides, but then in the late 1940s they then changed that to flamed maple back and sides, which is then what this model became known as, like the big jumbo with the maple back and sides. So in 1957, that was kind of like when everything came together just perfectly. And yeah, that just laid the groundwork for the J200 that yeah, is arguably one of the most iconic acoustic guitars ever produced. So yeah, this is then the Epiphone inspired by Gibson custom version. So without further ado, let's dive into the rest of the specs. So we've got obviously the jumbo body size, which is very large. I'm trying to fit that into frame just right, which then obviously also produces a very big sound, very jumbo sound. Sounds very rich, very full, very lush, lots of low end. So very fantastic for just big open chords, as you hear so in a little bit in the playing part. Got a solid spruce top, which is Sitka spruce, as well as that this is, let's see, thermally aged. So what they then do in the factory is that they basically like artificially kind of like speed up the aging process of this top before being obviously being installed on like the rest of the body, so that it sounds more broken in, more played in, arguably more vintage right out of the box, without having you to play it for a number of years before you kind of like reach that point. That's kind of like the idea. A lot of manufacturers actually do this nowadays. But they also kind of like all have their own name for it, but that is kind of like the idea of it, so that it sounds more played in, a little bit more vintage out of the box. Obviously we've got the very stunning pickguard, SJ-200 pickguard. That is also incredibly iconic with that flower pattern inlay and painting work done on that faux tortoiseshell material. Equally as iconic, the mustache bridge. That is kind of like a work of art in and of itself, very ornate, featuring also those mother of pearl inlays. Made out of rosewood, so that is the one of the big differences compared to the previous iteration of the Inspired by Gibson custom SJ-200. This is real rosewood. Former one got laurel, Indian laurel, I believe, which is also fine, but it's not accurate. So this one actually gets rosewood. Could use a little bit of oil if you ask me. Looks a little bit dry, but this is the actual real deal rosewood. Got then a bone saddle, and then I think also some bone bridge pins, arguably, but not 100% sure. Could maybe be like some sort of a Graphtec material of some sort, or maybe tusk. We've also got a very high quality pickup. We've got an LR Baggs pickup. To be more specific, this is the LR Baggs Elements Bronze VTC pickup system. So you've got a volume and a tone control on the inside here of your sound hole. So it is also like a piezo style of a pickup, so you've got that running underneath the saddle. And then I'll check over here at the end pin. Also got some very fine binding obviously around the top, which is some 6-ply binding, so white, black, white, black, white, black. And then also kind of like a similar rosette with that multiply material. The bracing is some scallop X bracing underneath this top. And then we have got obviously the beautiful flamed maple back and sides. Again, that is really what makes the SJ-200 the SJ-200 really. Those maple back and sides, very iconic tone that you get from this. It's very big, very boomy. It is bright, but it is not like, I feel like the maple, people always call maple like really bright, like that is the brightest tone wood, but it's not all that super bright. It's still quite lush sounding. So don't think that this would like just, you know, go like peak in all of those higher frequencies in the mix. This still sounds like very rich and also very like a very wide range of dynamics is being reached of like the frequencies. So sounds very, very nice, as you'll hear so in a little bit. Obviously then also got a very nice back strip. Not sure how you would describe it other than really cool. And then some multiply material or binding around the back as well. And that is then 4-ply. Moving on to the neck. That is a multi-piece maple neck, 2-piece maple neck with a walnut strip running through the center. Obviously also beautifully figured. The flame is not that crazy on this neck, but still plenty there to go over. So it looks very, very nice. Then also features a 1957 profile. So it is a little bit chunky. But not like baseball bat chunky, I would say. Actual 1957 like Gibsons, for example, those tend to be more chunky. This is still kind of like more towards the medium size, but nicely rounded, kind of like in between a C and a D shape. Also got a little bit of shoulder, just plays and feels really, really nice in the hand. By the way, the finish, never even got over the finish. That is a vintage glass finish. The former Inspired by Gibson custom models also had that, but this has been polished just a little bit more than the former models or like the former like production runs. So it is just a little bit more glossy, but still has kind of like the doled out glass, if you will. So feels really nice. Okay, back to the neck. Rosewood fingerboard. So that's also a big plus from the former Inspired by Gibson custom 57 J200, because those also, just like the bridge, came with Indian laurel. But this is again the more accurate actual rosewood. It also just looks nicer. Like right out of the box, looks darker, looks more of a dark brown. Got the right streaking, got the right pores, and also feels nice. So I'm very happy to see that. So then also bound, also got that very fine neck extension also over here. Also very ornate. And obviously also got the very iconic mother of pearl crown inlays. That's also very much synonymous to the SJ-200. Then got a bone nut. That is, let's see, that is 1.72 inches wide, or 43.8 millimeters. And then we have got obviously also the open book headstock. That was also a very big deal when these first came out, that they actually got the Gibson style headstock shapes. Obviously it doesn't say Gibson, it says Epiphone, but really cool to see that again on this model. Looks very classy. It's also then bound. Then you've also got your crown inlay done in mother of pearl, as well as your truss rod cover, the bell truss rod cover. Then on the back you've got a stinger, and then also got some very nice tuners. To be more specific, I think that these are just Epiphone branded. Yeah, these are the Epiphone Deluxe tuners, so obviously very much Clusen in style. Gold with your tulip tips. Looks really nice, and they also work just perfectly fine. And then last thing to mention, to top it off, it comes with a hard shell case. So yeah, really cool guitar. Again, has been out for a couple of years, but this has been more refined with the rosewood, with the kind of like adjusted, like a little bit more glossy vintage glass finish. I think that what's also different is that these do not come with a pre-installed button here for your strap. I think that the first run did get that, but now that's up to you as the buyer to do that or not, to your liking. But yeah, really cool stuff. Cool guitar, king of the flat tops for a reason, as you'll hear so in a little bit. So let's move on to that part and let's actually hear what it sounds like. But first, if you're interested in this brand new Epiphone inspired by Gibson, a custom 1957 SJ-200 in a beautiful antique natural finish, be sure to head over to the links in the description for further details. If you enjoyed this demo, be sure to like the video and to subscribe to the channel for more cool weekly demos of very cool brand new acoustics like these from the Epiphone inspired by Gibson custom line, or played in used gear, or like vintage golden age gear, acoustics, electrics, bass guitars, even all that really cool stuff. Also be sure to like us and follow us on the socials, Instagram and Facebook. Links are also in the description. With all that being said, let's see what is very fantastic, inspired by Gibson custom 1957 SJ-200 sounds like. Going to be playing some chords and then some lead style playing, so that you can get a good impression of what this very fine king of the flat tops all has in store for us. So let's then move on to that part and let's then take the king of the flat tops for a spin.